You know, making a feature film is really hard. But when I'm old and looking back on my life, I think Grandma Werewolf is gonna be one of the key moments of my life that I'll look back on and say,
Scene 5, take 2.
Wow, that's something we did together, and so many amazing memories from it.
Awesome.
Okay, Zach, I think we're ready to go.
Hi, my name is Zachary Will. I'm the writer, director, producer of Grandma Werewolf. Welcome to the story of Grandma Werewolf. So I guess the story of Grandma Werewolf started back when I was in college at Full Sail University. I went there with a couple of the crewmates, Cliff, who was the DP, Raph, who was the editor, Will, who was one of our sound mixers, and Austin, who was helped with art and some makeup as well. Around that time, I had just finished my first feature film script. I went like all out on it, and some big action scenes, some big scenes, some big monsters and stuff like that. And I realized after finishing the script that I would need probably at least $1 million to create the film. And, you know, I'm not a millionaire, so I needed to find something more realistic to create. And so that's when I started thinking of new script ideas that I could be doing. And that was around when Thanksgiving break was, and so I went back home to Pennsylvania, and we went up to my parents' cabin for Thanksgiving. I remember this particular moment where we couldn't find my grandmother, and someone was like, "It's not like she's a vampire, she can't just up and fly away." And then I was like, "But maybe she's a werewolf," and just that kind of idea of this like cute grandmother being this ferocious werewolf kind of really inspired me to write the whole script. From having the idea to finishing the script was about a couple months, I think about 6 months or so. I finished up college within that portion and moved to Atlanta. And in Atlanta, that's where Cliff met Olivia, and who's one of the producers on the film. Well, and there in Atlanta, I always just kidded with Raph and Cliff whenever they would talk about their future, and I would just be like, well, next year we gotta film Grandma Werewolf. And then eventually it got to the point where, you know, I think it was Cliff who was like, man, I'm gonna be really disappointed if we don't actually film Grandma Werewolf next year. And so I think that was when it hit me that like, oh, we gotta start preparing for this and get everything ready for it. And everybody seemed to be super excited about the idea. Just the title alone kind of brings in people and kind of piques their interest. So we put together a Kickstarter project. We actually went up to my parents' cabin where we were gonna film, and we filmed this short little promo.
Hope you enjoyed that promo. My name is Zachary Will, and I'm the writer-director of Grandma Werewolf.
But it started to snow, and we just kind of used that. And so there's lots of snow in the Kickstarter promo, which wasn't really planned. It was just kind of happy accident, and we kind of got stuck there. And it was really cold filming that promo, but we made it through and made a pretty awesome project through that. But we learned a lot of things too from that promo. The biggest takeaway was just that the werewolf costume wasn't up to par. And we spent a bunch of months in the preparation trying to figure out which costumes we liked. There's a little bit of argument of like, how good does the werewolf need to be? In the end, we decided to go with some pretty professional masks that we got from LA, from an effects company there. And we decided not to go with like prosthetics or something because we didn't have too much time to apply too much makeup and stuff on the days of the shoot, because we were planning on doing very quick shoot. The very quick shoot that we thought would be enough turned into not being enough, and so it continuously added days and it ended up being about 21 days of shooting. You know, originally I was like, you know, we can definitely do this in like 14 days. And then after the first week, I was like, wow, we're only about a third of the way done. Need to add like another week onto it. And then we needed like 1 day of reshoots as well.
We shot it for 3 weeks. We did 1 week and then 2 weeks.
Later on, we decided to have some auditions in the cabin. So we drove up for that. And just to let you know, the drive from Atlanta to the cabin is about 14 hours. We made that trip countless times for this project, and I think that drive really took it out of some of us. So we drove up for these auditions, not really knowing what to expect. We ended up having some pretty amazing actors come out. One in particular was Dan, and he auditioned partly for the Hank role, but then we gave him the sides for Carl and Jared, and he immediately read the lines for Carl, and just after that first reading, I immediately knew this is the guy. This is the guy for Carl.
That's great. Yeah, that was almost exactly what I was picturing.
I don't remember the exact situation, but Jim needed to audition a little bit earlier, and so he came by before we had everything set up, and it was just me there. And he told me that, you know, he came up to the cabin. It was in the middle of nowhere, and he was like kind of skeptical. His girlfriend was kind of in the car, and she was really skeptical too, and was just like, well, you should go up there and find out. I'm gonna stay in the car, keep it running, you know. And Jim kind of walked up to the door, and you know, he said that, you know, he saw me, and then he was like, "Oh, that guy looks pretty normal." And then like, you know, I gave him like a thumbs up, and he like came in, and he auditioned there right in front of me, and you know, just one-on-one. There aren't many people that are willing to put that much effort into their passion. And he was like, can totally work with your schedule. You know, he even took off like a whole week for one of our weeks of shooting. He would come in crazy hours after his work just to be a part of the project. And I was just constantly amazed by how much Jim put into the project.
So my name is America Ramos, and I played Kate in Grandma Werewolf.
So another story from casting, one of the actors, America, she came out to audition. She's from Stroudsburg, which is pretty close to where we were filming.
My mom found you on Backstage, and she was like, this looks like a great opportunity because it's in town. And I was like, that's great, so let's do it. And that's actually how I found you guys. And then I left school early, like really early. So I was like, oh, I'm getting out of school, that's exciting. And we got lost a little bit coming here, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna make it on time, let's just like go back home. And Mom was like, no. So she was like very like determined to get here. So I was like, there's no point, like we're not gonna find this place. And we finally found you guys. I auditioned, and then after auditioning, you know, I got the part and everything, and I was like, wow, if like we turned back, like none of this would have happened. So I'm very grateful that she was like on the road to come here, so.
And she was really good in the audition, and then we kind of like looked her up on the internet and found her doing a stand-up comedy act, and it was just amazing. And we were like, we have to have her for this role. She's just such a comedic genius.
I really liked you for the part.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I've been acting since I was in the 4th grade. I was doing stage, and I always loved the stage because I liked the interaction and the improv and everything that came along with stage acting. And then I think it was 7th grade where I started getting into film acting. So I would go to like workshops and everything, and then one time, well, I went to this one workshop. It was for agents and, you know, casting directors to come in. And I remember my mom went into AC Moore, and I was waiting in the car, and then she came in, she's like, "You got an agent." And I started crying. I was like, holy crap, like I got an agent. So then that's when I really started to like, you know, try to build my skills up and everything. And then ultimately signed up for like backstage, and then I found you guys again. So yeah, like it just started to build, and right now I'm just doing training and you know, just trying to build my skill sets, and I'm having a lot of fun while doing it. I was like a little confused when I first started. I was like, Grandma Werewolf, like, okay, like what's this gonna be about? Maybe like more intrigued, and I was like, what is this gonna entail? And then when we started shooting, and the name started to make more sense as I got more involved in the project. And now, you know, to other people, it's like, oh, Grandma Werewolf. Yeah, I know what that's gonna entail, a grandmother turning into a werewolf. But now it's kind of more.
Nobody came out to the cabin for the grandmother role, and so we set up some Skype auditions with some actresses. And one of them was Trisha Harmon. You know, and when we called her on the Skype call, she was in the middle of driving. So she kind of like pulled over the side of the road, and we did the scene there. And at the end of the scene, there's like a howl that the werewolf does. And she read through the scene, and then she actually did the howl at the end. And she said that there was a car passing by her as she was howling, and they were probably like, what is going on in that car? Her dedication of that made it clear that she was definitely the person for the role. One role that was actually being a bit tricky to cast was Jared. And the actor that we had picked was being a little bit difficult with the contract because, you know, we didn't really have any money. And so we were just giving out, you know, percentage points behind the film. And so then we decided to set up some new Skype calls to audition some new actors. And this one that really came through was Chris Naples. And we auditioned him when we were like, man, he's perfect.
So my name is Chris Naples. I played Detective Jared in the movie Grandma Werewolf. And I'm from Easton, Pennsylvania. I was, you know, kind of sifting through Backstage.com one night looking for work, and I was sorting through by location to see what was being filmed in Pennsylvania, not too far from where I live. And I saw about 45 minutes from where I live, here in Kunkletown, you were shooting Grandma Werewolf pretty soon. So I put in for it, and I was glad I did. A week later, I got to do the audition and landed the role. I had a lot of fun. I was thinking of how, you know, I can kind of sell the fact that I'm gonna play a detective or a cop or something. So I thought, okay, well, I do have a button-down shirt. Maybe I'll just wear my button-down shirt and put on, I collect patches, movie patches. And I had 2 patches from Police Academy. So I duct taped one patch to my one shoulder, one patch to my other shoulder. And right before the audition, and I thought, you know, maybe this will make me look like a cop or something. I could try to sell it, you know. And I guess it must have worked because I'm sitting here, so. But you know, I know the patch was kind of falling off, so I was hoping you didn't notice that. I was kind of going like this, I think, a little bit, because the duct tape was wearing down.
Chris always brought so much energy to set and so much passion. He's been such a supporter of the film even afterwards, and you know, coming out to the screenings and trying to push the film as much as possible. And that was such a God thing. And I think God was actually a pretty big part of this film. He helped me overcome a lot of my self-doubt and fears for the project, and put all the right people into the project when they needed to be there, bring the right locations when they needed to be there. So So I mean, one of the main reasons this film got made was because the main location was my parents' cabin, and I knew I could get that location. But there were a couple locations that were kind of hard to find. One was a forest, and like we talked to a bunch of different parks, and all of them didn't want us to film there. My dad was like, well, let me talk to this real estate agent I know that's up there. And then his real estate agent connected us to this author who, a Gary Gentile, who lives in Jim Thorpe. And, you know, without even knowing us, he was just like, yeah, come film at my house. I have a bunch of acres of forest behind the house, and it even goes back into a park too. You know, we were filming there all night, and he actually went to bed and was like, just lock the doors when you guys head out. And that was just so amazing to have someone that was so, you know, willing to help us out with the project, and willing to help out people that they didn't even know. Was just amazing, and there were so many instances of that throughout the project.
My name is Trevor Brooks. I play the character of Ben Malroy. I got involved in the film. I found it on Backstage. We did our audition stuff. And now I'm sitting here.
My name is Xavier Jackson. I played as myself and also one of the spray can guys. And I got involved because my friend Jimmy had introduced me to it, and also I knew the director from in high school.
My name is Jimmy Griffith. I was the cashier who got traumatized. And I got involved with it when my grandfather sent me a post that I think it was either you or your father had made on Facebook asking for extras in the movie. And I was like, hey, I have some acting experience. Let's test it on the big screen now. Shot you, the director, a message. And was like, hey, yeah, I'd like to audition. And so we set up an audition, and wham, bam, here I am.
I think my favorite experience was just coming out to like actually be a part of a film. I thought that was like, in general, just really exciting. I literally got like the lines like 20 minutes before we filmed it, but like I think I did a good job. But like just being like on an actual set was like one thing to like check off the bucket list. I did do like a little bit of acting, but never in like a actual feature film in multiple plays. Yeah, but to actually be in a movie was actually pretty cool. And like seeing my name on IMDb was like really awesome to see. The cast is awesome.
Is there any way we can make movies like forever and just continue to have everybody together?
Like individually, like behind the scenes and on, like during recording and everything, it's really cool.
This was my very first movie. Everything else I had done had been like on stage plays and musicals. So the experience of getting to be in a movie and actually seeing how that works was very enlightening.
I remember we were talking to the officers, and they're like some of the really like most funny people I've met, and we were just like, while I was waiting to like record my scene, we were just here at the cabin just hanging out talking about a bunch of Sharknado sequels. and just saying like just hypothetically what the next one would be.
Plus I got to meet a bunch of cool people who have given me a few more pointers as to how to get into the acting business a little more professionally. Like Wayne, definitely, he's got a bunch of experience. Chris, they've given me a bit of a path to follow in becoming a better actor. Didn't really get to meet the rest of them until like the showing, but even then it's still, I could feel the connection. But even with just those few people, it definitely felt really close-knit.
It was a really, really different vibe with the whole group. It felt much more like a family. Other times it's everybody kind of doing their own thing. Everybody was working for the team the whole way. If I had to give one moment, in the car I'm imitating my sister's voice. We're in the small space cramped. There's a couple of people in there in the car with me. It demonstrated how the whole experience was. It was just a couple of people making a film together, but it was so much more than that too. I've done a lot of independent short films, a lot of stuff like that, a lot of independent film really. This film was incredibly different from everything else I've ever done. Part of it, I think, I've done a lot of stuff in New York City, and New York City people have a certain vibe, and this was so very different than that. And everybody was working together, and everybody was so creative. There was a lot of creativity everywhere on set.
I mean, I always love sharing the story about how when we were filming the scene in the convenience store, how it was open during that time. So people would just keep walking in and out while we were shooting scenes. And how there's the one, I think it was a lady who tried to like jump in front of the camera while we were rolling. And so we, of course, had to cut the take. But, you know, it was just really funny how we had to keep stopping and starting again because people kept walking in and making noise.
Well, what?
People were like, what the heck is going on here? Because at first, you know, having the werewolf there was alarming for them. And then we had the hunter. And they were like, what's going on? Which is really the kind of reaction we had, like, in shooting. It's like that's what our characters acted like. And of course, the fact that he showed up to set in that full garb. I had never seen him before, so I didn't know what to expect. And then all of a sudden he just shows up like that. And I'm like, what is going on?
One of them that was really fun was the scene where she whisks me away from getting hit by the car and all that. See the fur on my grandmother's arm, and it's a short little scene, but it's really, really, really emotional, really, really powerful. The feelings there.
It's not what you think. It's not. It's okay.
It's the kind of stuff I like. So a short film is usually under 30 minutes. Feature films are longer than that, obviously. One of the big differences is that a short film, you're only going to be working on it for a week or less, whereas this was 3 weeks, and it was also overnight, and everybody was really, we got to know each other a lot more than if we were on set for a week and then we left. With me and Jim had a really, really nice bond on set. That was really, really great.
The whole thing was a great experience, but I think I always say this, what jumps out of my mind is driving down here to location. You know, most of 90% of my scenes were right here in Kunkletown. You know, it wasn't in Columbia, it was in Kunkletown here, kind of out in the sticks. So and I had all night shoots. You know, they were all night scenes. So just kind of driving to the scene and driving out, you know, suited up and everything with my tie on and looking like a detective, getting in the mood, like driving to the location was just so much fun because I knew what was about to happen. I was going to do another night of shooting Grandma Werewolf and have a lot of fun. So that's just like one of the things I just really look forward to and that I really enjoyed. I think I learned a lot from other actors. I know I learned a lot from Dan, working with Dan, kind of like the ad-libbing back and forth and his humor. And he just had me in stitches when he spit out some of that hamburger on my shoulder, man. I was laughing a lot. But luckily it was before we started shooting, so I think I got that out of my system. But
I'm Aaron Will, and I played young Hank.
How did you get involved with the film?
I'm the director's younger brother.
What was the hardest part about acting?
It was probably trying to be serious.
Yeah, is that hard for you?
Yes, it's really hard.
What did you think of the film?
It's great.
Yeah.
Give it a thumbs up. 2 thumbs up, actually. This is my first time.
This is your first time acting?
Yep. Actually, kind of, I was in our videos. I just didn't have much talking to do. It's like YouTube videos made by Zach. Also, check it down and listen. Link is description or whatever.
What else did you learn about filmmaking?
I learned that it can be hard to film. You have to do something until it's like good.
Yeah.
Until it's your director's perspective and how your director likes it.
Was your director really hard on you?
Nope. because because this is my first film. And also because he's my brother. A lot of people said I was the star of the film because of how funny I was.
Would you agree with them?
Yep.
Thanks for interviewing with me.
Roger, Roger.
I love the offsets. I just think of all the stuff we did, like when me and Trisha were dancing to just keep ourselves awake at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, my favorite part is building the connections and relationships with everyone else in the cast and crew. Just other projects, you don't really see that type of connection and positive vibes, so I really enjoyed that. Hardest thing, the werewolf costume, definitely. So far, I've been acting as a human. So trying to like take on like a different form, like a werewolf. It's not even like an animal, it's a different entity. So I'm like trying to make it as realistic as possible was a challenge for me. And but I ultimately just had a lot of fun with it. And I think feeding off of Trisha's amazing part really set me to do better.
But with the Grandma Werewolf team, we have something very special. And it doesn't come around that often.
So I think the biggest takeaways is you can't make a film by yourself, but you can definitely make a film.
I loved being a part of this. It was an amazing show to be a part of. The movie was just phenomenal. The people were phenomenal. And I can't wait for the sequel.
Just had so much fun, man. The whole thing was just a great experience. Really enjoyed it.
So go make that film. Do it.
Scene A6 Bravo, take 1. Camera set.
And action.
Riverside Studios YouTube channel. Subscribe.
Let's definitely go at the end of this video.